In this chilling sixth part, we reveal 5 tragic deaths caused by high-speed crashes involving luxury cars. These are stories that expose the deadly consequences of speed, recklessness, and momentary lapses, where wealth and power couldn't save lives. Brace yourself for the heartbreaking realities behind some of the world's most luxurious cars. Every Sunday, Shivaji Roy welcomed the dawn behind the wheel of a high-performance machine, part of a ritual he shared with a close-knit group of fellow car enthusiasts. But what began as another joy-filled outing ended in catastrophe near Damjur, West Bengal, when the Ferrari he was driving crashed into the side of a flyover. 43-year-old Shivaji Roy was a director of M.L. Roy Company Sanitations Private Limited, one of Bengal's oldest drainage and sanitation companies. A resident of Rashbihari Avenue, he lived in a 3-story home with his family. Known for his cheerful personality and love for high-performance vehicles, Shivaji had been part of an elite driving group called Club GT. The group's weekend tradition involved heading out of the city at dawn for high-speed runs on national highways, stopping midway for breakfast or coffee before heading home. Shivaji owned a Jaguar F-Type and a Harley-Davidson. He had recently started test driving a Ferrari California T he was planning to purchase from a friend. On the morning of June 3rd, Shivaji joined 6 other drivers, along with family members, for another run. The convoy included luxury cars like a Lamborghini Gallardo and a BMW 1.8. Shivaji's 17-year-old son Shreyan rode with him on the way out, but switched cars during the return so that Ashna Surana, 17, daughter of a family friend, could accompany Shivaji in the Ferrari. Around 9:30 a.m., as they drove back along NH6 near the Pakuria flyover, tragedy struck. According to police and forensic reports, a truck ahead suddenly slowed or changed lanes. In response, Shivaji swerved sharply to the right and braked hard. The Ferrari, traveling at an estimated 120 to 130 kilometers per hour, lost control. Skid marks stretched over 210 feet. The car slammed into the iron guardrails of the flyover, and a thick metal bar pierced the engine and drove into Shivaji's chest. Though airbags deployed, the sheer force of the impact shattered vital organs, puncturing his lungs and liver. The Ferrari's dashboard and bonnet were destroyed. The car was found locked in comfort mode, indicating the speed had been electronically limited, but that was not enough to prevent the devastating outcome. Shivaji survived the initial crash and remained conscious inside the wreck for nearly an hour. Eyewitnesses reported him groaning in pain and repeatedly saying he couldn't breathe. Emergency responders lacked the proper tools to cut open the Ferrari structure and were forced to use a crane to extract him. By the time he arrived at Calcutta Medical Research Institute, doctors pronounced him dead. His co-passenger Ashna Surana suffered serious injuries and was admitted in critical condition to a hospital in Ekbalpur. The forensic investigation noted that the needle of the speedometer was stuck at 130 kilometers per hour, suggesting the car might have been moving even faster before impact. Officials planned to consult Ferrari engineers in Italy to retrieve electronic crash data, similar to a flight black box, which could confirm the vehicle's exact behavior in the seconds before the crash. In the meantime, the absence of CCTV footage and lack of license plate information from the truck in question hindered further investigation. Shivaji's death shocked Kolkata's business and automotive communities. Many who knew him found it hard to believe that a careful, trained driver, someone who had even taken circuit driving courses at the Budd International Circuit, could be involved in such a crash. Friends described him as disciplined on the road despite his passion for speed. His loss was deeply felt by friends, colleagues, and his family, especially his son, who narrowly escaped the accident by switching cars. In the aftermath, questions have been raised about traffic conditions on NH6 and the Durgapur Expressway. Reports have pointed to frequent violations involving illegally parked trucks, lane switching, cattle crossing, and lax enforcement of traffic laws. Shivaji's death has only intensified scrutiny on these roads, and for some it has become a grim symbol of the dangers that even the most experienced drivers face on India's highways. On a warm August evening in North London, an ordinary family outing took a devastating turn, one that would leave a young girl's life cut tragically short and a community searching for answers. Behind the wheel of a powerful luxury car was a man whose night of excess would end in irreversible consequences. What followed was a chain of events marked by recklessness and unimaginable loss. Anya Patel was part of a close-knit family who had been enjoying a normal evening on August 20th, 2022. An evening which included dinner in Wembley, followed by a spontaneous stop at a McDonald's for ice cream. Their plans were simple and joyful. She was seated in the rear of the family's red Vauxhall Astra alongside her parents and brother, unaware of the danger rapidly approaching from behind. Edward Tully, a 30-year-old trader from St. John's Wood, had spent the same evening at Proud Embankment, a cabaret venue in central London. CCTV footage later showed Tully drinking repeatedly over the course of 2 hours, at least 20 times from glasses filled with Prosecco and champagne. The receipt revealed he spent over £1,500 on food and drink, including 5 bottles of Veuve Clicquot Rosé. Impaired but undeterred, Tully got behind the wheel of his black Bentley Continental convertible and began driving home through North London streets at speeds between 56 and 60 miles per hour, nearly double the legal limit for the area. Tully ran 4 red lights and, at a junction in Barnet, overtook another vehicle at speed. As he did, his Bentley slammed into the rear side of the Astra that Anya's mother was driving. The violent impact spun the car 460 degrees across the junction before it rolled backwards into a pedestrian barrier. The Bentley then struck a post on a traffic island. Anya was found unconscious, not breathing, and severely injured. Her father, seated beside her, sustained serious spinal injuries. Her mother and brother, though less physically harmed, were left screaming for help at the scene. Witnesses quickly responded. One passerby used tools to cut Anya's seatbelt and began CPR. Emergency responders arrived and succeeded in restarting her heart, but she remained unconscious and unable to breathe on her own. She was transferred to the Royal London Hospital and placed in pediatric intensive care. Despite all efforts, she died 3 days later from unsurvivable injuries that included brain and spinal trauma, internal organ damage, a fractured pelvis, and broken arms. Tully fled on foot immediately after the crash, returning to his flat in Princess Park Manor. There, he called his father, who picked him up and removed him from the area. Although DNA evidence on the Bentley's airbag tied Tully to the driver's seat, he only surrendered to police the next day at Colindale Station. Due to his flight, the precise extent of his alcohol impairment could not be assessed. Prosecutors described his decision to flee as cowardly and callous, and CCTV captured him making a dismissive gesture from the Bentley immediately following the crash. At trial, Tully pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and causing serious injury by dangerous driving. In July 2024, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison and disqualified from driving for 13 years. He must serve 2/3 of his sentence before being eligible for release. The emotional aftermath has been harrowing. Anya's mother described the loss of her daughter as the destruction of her entire world, noting that their once joyful family life had been reduced to pain and suffering. Her father, still in a neck brace from his spinal injuries, expressed helplessness and despair, saying there was no longer any desire to live. Her brother, struggling with grief, described his existence as hollow and devoid of emotion. The judge condemned Tully's actions and criticized those who assisted his escape. He emphasized the magnitude of the loss and the suffering inflicted on a family that had simply been trying to enjoy a quiet evening. Despite the sentence, Anya's family said that no punishment could undo what had happened, and the pain they carry will never fade. In the stillness of a Melbourne night, a single moment would change lives forever, shattering hopes and leaving unanswered questions in its wake. What began as an ordinary drive turned into a tragedy that would haunt a community and tear a family apart, as a young woman's bright future was abruptly and devastatingly cut short. In early June 2025, Arshdeep Kaur was a dedicated student at Victoria University, a young woman who had traveled from India to Australia with hopes of building a promising career and life abroad. Described by loved ones as kind and full of life, Arshdeep embodied the aspirations of many international students striving to create a better future. Her family regarded her as someone with big dreams, whose sudden and unfortunate fate left a deep void. It was approximately 1 a.m. on Dunmore Drive in Truganina, a suburb in Melbourne's west. Arshdeep was seated in the front passenger seat of a bright orange Ford Mustang GT, a powerful V8 sports car popular across Australia. The Mustang, driven by 23-year-old Vikramjit Singh of Caroline Springs, collided with the rear of a stationary truck. The force of the impact was catastrophic. The passenger side of the vehicle, where Arshdeep was seated, was completely shredded, with the roof torn off and debris scattered extensively across the road. The truck involved, in stark contrast, suffered only minor damage to a corner of its rear doors. Emergency services arrived quickly on the scene, finding Arshdeep already deceased. Despite the severity of the crash, the driver, Vikramjit, survived and was taken to the hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. Authorities immediately launched an investigation into the circumstances that led to this tragic event. Police and forensic teams meticulously examined the wreckage and the crash site, where fragments of the Mustang were found scattered dozens of meters away from the main wreckage. Firefighters inspected the engine and structural damage of the car the following day as part of the inquiry. Legal proceedings quickly followed. Singh was charged with dangerous driving causing death and careless driving. Reports indicate that he has no prior criminal record and was in Australia on a bridging visa at the time. Despite the gravity of the charges, he was granted bail under strict conditions, including a $25,000 surety, a prohibition from driving any vehicle, and mandatory regular reporting to police. His court appearances are scheduled for the months following the incident as the case continues to develop. The aftermath of the crash has been devastating for Arshdeep's family and friends. The sudden loss has profoundly affected those close to her, both in Australia and abroad. Public appeals have been made to assist with the costs of repatriating her body to India, reflecting the significant logistical and financial burden her death has imposed on her grieving family. Friends and loved ones described Arshdeep as a vibrant and kind person whose dreams and ambitions were cruelly cut short. Meanwhile, the broader community has been reminded of the dangers of road accidents, especially involving high-powered vehicles. The investigation highlights ongoing concerns about traffic safety on Victoria's roads, where fatalities have increased compared to previous years. Police have urged witnesses and individuals with dashcam footage to come forward, seeking to piece together the precise sequence of events leading to the collision. This tragic incident is a stark reminder of how quickly lives can be altered or lost due to dangerous driving and the devastating ripple effects on families and communities. The loss of Arshdeep Kaur is mourned deeply, highlighting the urgent need for vigilance and responsibility on the roads to prevent such heartbreak in the future. In the quiet hours before dawn on May 3, 2025, a life full of promise came to an abrupt and tragic end on one of Kampala's busiest and most treacherous junctions. What should have been a day of celebration turned into a devastating loss that impacted Uganda's business and social communities, leaving many searching for answers amid questions of road safety and accountability. Rajiv Ruparelia, age 35, was no ordinary man. As the only son of Uganda's prominent business magnate Dr. Sudhir Ruparelia, Rajiv had carved out his own distinguished path as the managing director of the Ruparelia Group. This vast conglomerate spanned multiple sectors, including real estate, education, hospitality, finance, agriculture, and media, and under Rajiv's leadership, it became a vital force driving Uganda's economy. Educated at elite institutions, Dean Close School in Cheltenham and Regent's College London, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Financial Management, Rajiv returned to Uganda with a clear vision to uplift his country. His tenure as managing director, beginning at age 27, was marked by bold expansion, job creation for thousands of Ugandans, and a commitment to inclusive development. He was also a passionate advocate for education, playing a pivotal role in growing Victoria University from a modest student population to over 8,700, making quality, affordable education accessible to many through innovative programs and scholarships. On the night of May 3, 2025, Rajiv was behind the wheel of one of his prized possessions, a high-performance Nissan GTR, registration number UAT638L. The GTR, a twin-turbocharged 3.8-liter V6 capable of producing 565 horsepower and accelerating from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.9 seconds, is a car known for its power and precision, but also for demanding utmost caution from its driver. Rajiv, who was preparing to serve as a groomsman at the wedding of his close friend Jonathan Bahizi Butira, was traveling from Kayansi towards Munyonyo along the Munyonyo-Entebbe Expressway when tragedy struck. Shortly after midnight, as he approached the Busabala flyover junction, an area undergoing significant construction with temporary concrete barriers in place, Rajiv's Nissan collided with these barriers. Police reports confirmed the vehicle hit the temporary pavements at the roundabout section, causing it to overturn multiple times. The car was reportedly launched nearly 8 meters into the air before crashing down and erupting into a fiery inferno. The crash was a single-vehicle incident. Rajiv was the sole occupant and died instantly at the scene. Eyewitness accounts and CCTV footage corroborate the speed at which Rajiv was traveling, as well as the suddenness of the impact. Veteran journalist and family friend Andrew Mwenda suggested that Rajiv, having recently returned from London, may not have been aware of the temporary barriers, which had been reinstalled with inadequate or no warning signage. Residents of the Busabala area confirmed that the barriers had been a hazard long before the crash, citing multiple accidents and frequent complaints about the poor road safety measures. A senior government official, speaking anonymously, described the barriers as sheer negligence and criticized the responsible authorities for failing to provide adequate warnings or remove the dangers promptly. The death of Rajiv Ruparelia sparked national grief and outrage. His family released a statement expressing their profound loss and called for privacy during this difficult time. Rajiv was survived by a 3-year-old daughter. The Ruparelia Group and Victoria University publicly mourned their leader, highlighting his contributions and visionary leadership. Funeral rites were planned according to Hindu tradition, with cremation scheduled at the Lugogo crematorium and vigils held at the family residence in Kololo. Public health experts and local residents questioned the reasoning behind the placement of the barriers at such a hazardous location without proper lighting or signage, highlighting systemic failures in road safety management. Patrick Oyelu, a public health specialist, remarked that the barriers intended to protect had instead become instruments of death due to negligence. Law enforcement authorities confirmed that investigations into the crash remain ongoing. Rajiv's death not only underscored the risks posed by poor infrastructure management, but also left a void in Uganda's entrepreneurial and social landscape. As a businessman, community leader, and advocate for education, Rajiv's vision and efforts had a profound impact. His tragic passing in a blaze of fire and metal serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for improved road safety and accountability in the country. In the early hours of June 2, 2019, a quiet Sunday morning in Las Vegas turned tragic when a high-speed crash shattered the stillness, claiming the life of a man who was resting in his parked vehicle. What began as an ordinary night escalated into a devastating event that would leave a community in mourning and raise urgent questions about the consequences of reckless decisions behind the wheel. Joshua David Bedell, 39, hailed from Greenville, Ohio, and was well known to those who cherished him as a man of warmth and community spirit. A graduate of Greenville Senior High School's class of 1998, Joshua was an active member of St. Mary's Catholic Church and the local Eagles Lodge. Joshua was described by friends and family as having an infectious laugh and a loving nature that endeared him to many. His life was anchored in close family ties, including his nieces and nephews. On June 2, 2019, Joshua was simply sitting in the passenger seat of his 2000 Toyota Camry, parked in a southeast Las Vegas shopping center lot, resting when fate would take a cruel turn. Shortly after 4 a.m., Joshua's quiet night was violently interrupted. A lime green 2018 McLaren 570S, rented roughly 18 hours earlier by 29-year-old Stanley E. Butler Jr. from Washington, D.C., was speeding southbound on South Pecos Road near Tropicana Avenue. Police reports stated the McLaren was traveling at a high rate of speed when Butler failed to maintain his lane and lost control. The undercarriage of the vehicle struck the pavement, triggering a catastrophic sequence. The car spun out of control, flew over a curb, and entered the parking lot where Joshua's Camry was parked. The impact was severe. The McLaren slammed into the stationary Camry, causing it to slide over a cement curb and flip as it collided with a wall. Police estimated the Camry's trajectory at roughly 70 feet following the crash. The McLaren itself traveled approximately 550 feet from the moment it lost control until it came to rest, overturning and emitting smoke. Joshua, who was asleep or resting in the front passenger seat, suffered blunt force injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene. Stanley Butler and his passenger, Lavone Blackburn Brandt of Temple Hill, Maryland, were both hospitalized. Butler showed signs of intoxication, including bloodshot and watery eyes, and smelled of alcohol when police arrived. Although he refused a blood draw initially, officers obtained samples through a warrant. Butler was subsequently charged with 2 counts each of DUI and reckless driving resulting in death or substantial bodily harm. The McLaren rental was valued at approximately $250,000 and had been rented from Dream Exotics, a Las Vegas-based exotic car rental company. According to Vic Tiagi, the company's general manager, All renters must be at least 21, possess valid licenses, and pass insurance checks. Tyagi expressed condolences to Joshua's family and stressed the company's commitment to safe driving, though he acknowledged the inability to monitor renters' behavior post-rental. Dream Exotics had maintained a record of 0 injuries over its 4 years of operation prior to this tragedy. The crash marked the 50th fatality that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department investigated in 2019, highlighting a disturbing pattern of impaired and reckless driving in the region. Captain Nick Farisi, head of the LVMPD Traffic Bureau, publicly decried impaired driving as a preventable cause of death, emphasizing the irrevocable consequences such choices can have on innocent lives like Joshua's. Community members and friends expressed deep sorrow, sharing memories of Joshua as a beloved figure whose sudden death left a void in many hearts. Tributes flooded social media, remembering him as an amazing soul and a big guy whose laughter brightened the lives around him. His funeral services were held at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Greenville, with family and friends gathering to honor his memory. Joshua David Bedell's death stands as a somber reminder of how one person's reckless decision behind the wheel can extinguish a life full of potential and love.